They said family means forgiveness. But what about accountability? I walked down the aisle alone, built an empire alone, and when they came begging, I reminded them what abandonment costs. If you believe in peace after payback, like this story, and stay with us, because Revenge Tales by Camera always finds the balance sheet of justice. I stood alone in the bridal suite at Magnolia Grove Conservatory on the edge of Palmetto Heights, Georgia, studying my reflection in the full-length mirror. My gown hugged exactly where it should. The beadwork caught the light like dew. The makeup artist had worked quiet miracles, my eyes luminous, my cheekbones sculpted, my mouth a soft berry rose. White peonies waited on the vanity. I checked my phone again. Nothing from Patrice or Reginald. Nothing from Marcus. A soft knock, and Tanya, the planner, slipped in with a professional smile that didn't reach her eyes. "It's time, Sarai. Ready?" I glanced out the window. Rows of white chairs. A string quartet murmuring something gentle. In the front row, 3 accusingly empty seats. "They're not coming, are they?" My voice wavered. Tanya's smile thinned. "There's still time," she said, and we both knew it wasn't true. I smoothed the silk at my hips and nodded. The garden doors opened, heads turned, whispers lifted like wind through reeds. Pity brushed me in passing, little taps on my shoulders and spine, as I walked alone. At the arbor, Devin waited, gaze steady, shoulders squared. The love in his face was a lighthouse. He took my hands, warm, certain. "I'm here," he whispered. "We're enough." For a moment I was 8 again, standing in our living room while my parents positioned Marcus's debate trophy on the mantel, angling it just so, snapping photos to send around. My own art certificate curled in a kitchen drawer. "That's nice, baby," my mother had murmured without looking up. My father had ruffled my hair. "Your brother's got big places to be. You understand, Sarai, don't you?" I did what I was taught. I tried harder. Grades. Scholarships. Promotions. Each one tossed like a stone at a closed window. The officiant spoke. The vows steadied me. "I choose a future where we see each other clearly," I told Devin, and he understood the weight of it. When we were pronounced married, Devin's mother pulled me into a hug that smelled of jasmine and talc. "You're ours now," she whispered, and a cinched knot inside me loosened. Under string lights, the photographer caught us spinning. Devin's cousins, black, laughing, beautiful, closed a circle around us. For whole minutes at a time, I forgot the hollow of those empty chairs. At the toast, Imani, my college roommate, lifted her glass. "To finding the family that deserves you." Agreement rippled through the guests. The truth of it hit like a clean wave. I'd spent years chasing approval that was never on offer. Later, tucked near the terrace, I checked my phone once more. No messages. No polite congratulations. Devin found me there and slid an arm around my waist. "They missed something beautiful today," he said. I looked at the man who never made me audition for Care, thought of his people, now my people, who had shown up with joy and casseroles and extra folding chairs. Friends had flown in from across the country to stand beside me. I set the phone down. "Their choice," I said, lighter than I'd felt in years. "Not my burden." For the first time, I almost believed it. 2 years later, I leaned back in my ergonomic chair and stared at the headline on my screen. Acquisition of Orchid Motion Lab finalized at $24.8 million. 5 years of building from nothing, 2 years of dancing with due diligence, and now the validation came in 8 bright figures. My door burst open. My team flooded in with sparkling cider and disposable flutes because we still had afternoon meetings. "To Sarai," said Tasha, my creative director, eyes shining. The woman who built a lighthouse while certain folks pretended not to see the storm. We clinked, 14 glasses, 14 people who showed up for me. My phone buzzed. Against my better judgment, I looked. Marcus posted a carousel from Brookhurst Preparatory's fundraiser. Him and Kendra, their twins in plaid, Patrice and Reginald beaming like stock photo grandparents. Caption: Legacy, loyalty, and learning, 3 generations strong. I swiped. Last month's family vacation in Turks and Caicos, a holiday open house I was invited to, my father's retirement toast. Numbers slipped into place whether I wanted them to or not. The beach villa they'd rented ran about $7,200 a week. Brookhurst tuition hovered around $38,000 per child per year. The neighborhood behind their photos? Nothing listed under $2.6 million. Marcus's law practice did fine, but not that fine. The math was obvious. My parents had been quietly bankrolling the image. Sarah, Tasha touched my sleeve. You drifted. Just basking, I lied, locking the screen. We hooped and hugged and went back to work. When the last congratulations faded and the office exhaled, I scrolled my parents' socials. Hundreds of posts about Marcus. One generic happy birthday to me last year without a photo. Nothing about Orchid. Nothing about the woman I became. I closed the laptop and made a decision. The next morning, I called my advisor. Let's finalize the Lucid Air, Obsidian Black. Today. 3 hours later, pen to paper at $142,000, I signed because I could, because I didn't need anybody's permission slips anymore. Back home, I took a single photo in the driveway and posted it with a quiet caption. Built, not begged. Silence for 3 days. On Wednesday, my phone flashed a name I hadn't seen in years. Mom. I picked up. Hello. We need to talk, Patrice said, her voice brisk with that emergency room urgency she reserved for family optics. Family meeting tomorrow. After years of nothing. Now it's a family meeting? I heard Reginald murmur in the background. Tell her it's important. What's important? I asked. My wedding wasn't. Orchid wasn't. What changed? A pause. It's complicated. Financial matters. We should discuss them as a family. Ah, the car. The acquisition. Suddenly, I qualified as kin. Tomorrow at 2, I said, and ended the call. The next afternoon, I slid into the Lucid, the leather cool against my back. The drive to Maple Crest, the neighborhood I grew up in, took 40 minutes, long enough to remember birthdays ignored, milestones missed, holidays cropped to exclude me. I pulled into the circular drive. The Obsidian sedan looked like the future parked against a past that never held me. A text from Devin lit my screen. Remember who you are. If you need an extraction, say the word. I smiled despite the clench in my jaw. An email pinged from Asha Coltrane, the first investor who ever believed in me. Your worth was never a vote. Then my assistant Quincy. Reminder. Production review at 4. Don't let them run your clock. I heard Dr. Yvette Monroe's voice in my head from last week's session. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're protection. Before I could knock, the front door swung open. Patrice and Reginald stood there, faces rearranging themselves from annoyance to appraisal as their eyes slid to the Lucid. You've done well, Reginald said. Not hello. Not we missed you. An appraisal. Yes, I answered. They led me to the dining room with the same polished oak table where I used to do my homework while Marcus practiced arguments in a mirror. Marcus and Kendra were already seated, their expressions arranged in what I can only call curated concern. Sarai, Marcus said, as if we'd spoken last week. Reginald pulled out manila folders. Let's get to business. I didn't sit. My purse strap bit into my palm, the only sign of the tremor I refused to show. First, I said, tell me why suddenly count as family after years of being optional. Patrice and Reginald exchanged a glance. Marcus shifted. We can address that later, Patrice said, smoothing nothing on the table. We have more pressing matters. I'm not in a rush, I said, still standing. And I'm not available for convenience, family. For the first time in my adult life, I watched uncertainty flicker across my father's face. They needed something, and for once I would decide the price. The dining room looked smaller than I remembered, as though the years of distance had squeezed the space tight. Reginald sat at the head of the table like a CEO managing a quarterly crisis. Patrice perched beside him, her posture picture-perfect despite the tension threading her features. Across from me, Marcus hunched over a stack of folders. Kendra sat beside him, a leather album open in front of her. It's foreclosure, Sarai, Reginald said, voice too steady to be honest. Marcus's mortgage is 3 months behind. The girl's tuition is unpaid. We're out of options. I said nothing. Let the silence stretch. You need to help your brother, he continued, sliding a document across the polished oak. Loan paperwork, already filled out, only missing my signature. Think of your nieces, Patrice added softly, her tone the kind that once made me cave. They shouldn't suffer because of financial turbulence. Marcus leaned forward. We're family. When one of us wins, we share. That's how it's supposed to work. Kendra turned the album around. Pictures of the twins smiling at parties I hadn't been invited to. They ask about Aunt Sarai all the time. My eyes stayed on the paper. Where were you at my wedding? Marcus blinked. What? My wedding, I repeated. 2 years ago. Where were you? Patrice's hand fluttered to her pearls. We were busy. Marcus had that gala for his firm. It wasn't convenient, Reginald added, as if explaining a scheduling conflict. I nodded slowly. But you're here now, because you saw the lucid in my post. That's not fair, Marcus snapped. Isn't it? I straightened, feeling the steel in my spine. Every scholarship, every investor meeting, every sleepless night. I built this alone. Where were you then? Reginald's eyes hardened. This isn't about the past. It's exactly about the past, I said. Convince me why I should sign this. Marcus's palm hit the table. You always had to prove something, always showing off how clever you were. Some of us were just trying to live normal lives. Reginald placed a hand on his shoulder. Your brother had more potential. We had to nurture that. You were so independent. We're still your parents, Patrice whispered, tears glimmering. You were parents on paper, I said calmly. You missed my graduation, my company launch, my wedding, every milestone that mattered. You missed my life, and now you want to share in what that life created. Reginald started, Sarai. You didn't build this, I interrupted. You don't get to spend it. My phone buzzed. A text from Devin, you okay? Meeting running long, followed by a reminder of Asha's old note. You don't owe visibility to those who refuse to see you. I thought of my team at Orchid Motion, their laughter after the acquisition toast. The people who chose to see me. The board who'd signed the foundation contract last week. Reginald nudged the papers closer. We're only asking what's fair. Family helps family. The interest rate is modest, Patrice added, as if generosity could sweeten presumption. Marcus smirked, confidence creeping back. Blood is thicker than water, right, sis? I unlatched my briefcase and set it on the table. The click echoed like a warning. Actually, I made a different decision. 3 faces leaned forward, hungry for a checkbook. I pulled out one sheet of paper and laid it flat. This, I said, is the charter for the Ella Grant Foundation for Media Futures, $18 million dedicated to young Black women in digital storytelling. Silence. Named after my high school teacher, I added. The only person who ever showed up to my showcases. Marcus choked. 18 million? You're giving it to strangers? To girls who deserve a chance, I corrected. The foundation board approved it last week. I slid the paper back into the briefcase and stood. That's what family looks like to me. Reginald's jaw flexed. Patrice's eyes glistened. Marcus's composure cracked. You can't just walk away, he shouted. We need that money. I paused at the doorway. No, Marcus. You needed to show up at my wedding, my launches, my life. But you didn't. That opportunity's gone. The door closed behind me with a soft finality that sounded like freedom. Outside, the lucid hummed to life beneath my palms. As I drove away from Maple Crest, the road felt wider than it had in years. I hit the call button. Devin answered instantly. How bad? Exactly what we expected, I said, exhaling. They saw the foundation document and lost it. But I'm fine. Better than fine. He chuckled softly. I'm proud of you. Don't forget, the board announcement's at 9 tomorrow. Already scheduled, I said, watching the sunset smear pink across the windshield. This time, everything's protected, Legally, financially, emotionally. That night, my phone buzzed with a dozen missed calls and 5 voicemails marked urgent. I set it face down on the nightstand. For the first time in my life, silence didn't feel like punishment. It felt like peace. The first message came just before midnight. Family emergency, call us now. Then 5 more. Then silence. By morning, my voicemail was full of trembling voices. My mother weeping about family unity, my father warning about appearances, Marcus hurling accusations about betrayal. I turned my phone face down on the nightstand. When I arrived at Orchid Motion's headquarters later that morning, I wore the same navy suit I'd signed the acquisition papers in. Sharp lines, calm authority. Devin handed me a mug of black coffee. They've been calling around, he said, scrolling through his phone. Your dad even tried reaching Uncle Ron like that would help. Predictable, I murmured, but not clever. The foundation board meeting began at 9 sharp. 12 women, executives, producers, and financiers sat around the conference table, all of them handpicked, all of them believing in the mission. We approved the press release unanimously. The Ella Grant Foundation for Media Futures, launching in 6 months, dedicated to training and funding young Black women in digital storytelling. An hour later, Janine from reception called. Ms. Rivers, your family is here. They're making a scene. Through the glass walls, I saw it. Patrice, her voice slicing through the lobby hum, gesturing wildly. My daughter is abandoning her family, she shouted. Marcus stood beside her, arms crossed, face red and rigid. Security moved quickly. I smoothed my skirt, adjusted my jacket, and stepped to my doorway. My staff froze, unsure. It's being handled, I told them. Let's keep working. Through the glass, I watched security escort them out. Marcus's voice echoed back. This isn't over, Sarai. You owe us. That evening, I drafted one email. Subject: Family communications. I have documented your repeated appearances and phone calls at my workplace. Any future attempts to contact me here will result in a formal complaint. All communication regarding family matters must go through my attorney, whose contact information is attached. Sarai Rivers. 2 days later, in Dr. Monroe's warm office, the smell of jasmine tea hung in the air. How did it feel sending that? She asked. Necessary, I said after a pause. Not satisfying. Just necessary. Boundaries often are, she smiled. You're seeing who they've always been, just without the disguise. It hit me then, the years of being useful but not loved. The trophies that weren't mine, the events I wasn't invited to, the constant exchange rate of affection for service. They wanted my success, I said slowly, not me. Dr. Monroe nodded. And what do you want now? To stop fixing them, I said. To build something better. 2 mornings later, Marcus tried to weaponize the press. A journalist from the Atlanta Herald called to confirm a family dispute involving money. When the reporter asked why none of them had attended my wedding, the story twisted fast. Parents absent from milestones now demanding access to millions. The public's sympathy shifted my way overnight. DMs, emails, even letters came in from women who'd lived that same invisibility. We always wondered why they never mentioned you, wrote a cousin I hadn't seen since college. My family's attempt at control had detonated in their hands. Within weeks, the Ella Grant Foundation became a trending story, not because of the drama, but because of its purpose. Applications poured in before the official opening date. The Georgia Business Review invited me to speak on legacy and leadership. When reporter Delia Warren visited, she glanced at the proposal packet and smiled. $18 million is significant seed funding, she said. What inspired such generosity? I thought for a long moment. A teacher who saw potential in me when others didn't. I replied. Miss Ella Grant changed my life simply by noticing I existed. I'm returning that favor at scale. Delia tilted her head. Is your family proud? I could have dodged, could have rephrased. Instead, I said, my success was built without them. And I'm proud of that. A week later, her article ran with the headline, From Overlooked to Overstanding, Entrepreneur Turns Pain into Power. The narrative shifted. Marcus's foreclosure became public. Patrice's church friends whispered. My foundation's press tour eclipsed every scandal they tried to stir. Asha, my first investor, issued a statement of support. We back builders who create impact, not dependency. My circle, Devin, Asha, my board, my therapist, closed ranks unshakable. And when the Women in Media Alliance named me Business Leader of the Year, I stood at the podium beneath warm lights, looking at faces that truly saw me. My story started in a room full of empty seats, I said. But look at this room now. The applause came like a rising tide. They had wanted ownership of my success. Instead, I built something no one could buy. Freedom wrapped in purpose. The weeks after the award blurred into quiet triumph. The Ella Grant Foundation had accepted its first 3 scholarship recipients. The press coverage stayed steady and kind. Thanksgiving loomed, and with it, one more attempt. An email appeared in my inbox. Subject line: Family needs to be together. I didn't open it. The pattern was obvious by now. Emotional bait dressed up as reconciliation. A day later, my cousin Trey texted, "Why can't you just talk to them?" He hadn't been at my wedding either. Then came a letter. Thick paper, elegant handwriting I'd know anywhere. "We always believed in you," my mother wrote. Half burned, it curled black in my fireplace. The manipulation escalated. Marcus sent the twins to my office with cards that read, "We miss you, Annie," in handwriting too perfect to be theirs. Devin found me staring at them that evening. "They're using the kids," he said quietly. "That's desperate. I'm not the villain they've painted me as," I murmured. "But I'm not their savior either." The next day, a lawyer representing my parents called. "Family carries obligations," he said, voice slick as oil. "I've met mine," I replied. "They're just not financial." Even Pastor Green from the old neighborhood church left a voicemail about forgiveness and holiday unity. Everyone had a script. None had accountability. During my therapy session that week, I confessed, they keep framing this as my fault, as if boundaries equal abandonment. Dr. Monroe's gaze was steady. "What would you tell one of your scholarship girls if her family treated her the way yours treated you?" "That she deserves people who see her worth," I said instantly. "Then live that truth." Her words stayed with me through the foundation's scholarship review. The top applicant, Maya Harrison, a 17-year-old documentary student, spoke in her video about finding her voice when her family refused to listen. The familiarity hit deep. "She reminds me of who I used to be," I told Devin that night. "Then she's exactly who you're meant to help," he said. So I did. The Thursday before Thanksgiving, I hosted dinner at our home. Naomi, Asha, my board members, my team, and Maya filled the table. Laughter shimmered between clinking glasses and the low hum of jazz. No tension. No pretending. I raised my glass. "To the people who see us as we are." A chorus echoed back. "To us." My phone stayed off. Over dessert, I announced the new mentorship branch of the foundation. "I'll personally guide each recipient," I said. "We're building something sustainable, not symbolic." Maya's eyes widened. "You'll mentor us yourself?" "Every step of the way," I smiled. "This isn't charity. It's continuation." When the feature about the foundation aired that evening, it ran during my parents' traditional dinner hour. On screen, my voice carried conviction. We build family through action, not obligation. The next morning, my parents asked to meet, Neutral Ground, a cafe downtown. They looked smaller somehow. Reginald's confident posture had folded in on itself. Patrice's pearls hung loose against a sweater that had seen better days. "We should have been there," he said, staring into untouched coffee. "At the wedding?" I asked. "Everywhere," he murmured. "We were wrong." For a heartbeat, I wanted to reach across the table, but clarity held me still. "I'm not closing the door forever," I said carefully. "But if you want contact, you'll both start therapy. Individually. And together." "That's unnecessary," he began. "It's non-negotiable." Silence. Then Patrice whispered, "We'll think about it." "Do," I said, finishing my tea. When I left, they were still sitting there, 2 people finally facing consequences. I didn't look back. That afternoon, I walked into the Ella Grant studio, where Maya adjusted camera lights in the golden morning glare. "What do you think about this angle?" she asked. "Shift it left," I said. "Catch how the light hits the edge of her face." My tone was that of a mentor, not a daughter pleading to be seen. Behind us, framed photos lined the wall, students, projects, films, all thriving. Every image represented a voice rescued from silence. Later, we watched Maya's final documentary cut, 3 generations of Black women holding their families together through art and grace. When the screen faded to black, she turned to me with tears in her eyes. "You're the reason I believe I can do this," she whispered. I hugged her, thinking of Miss Ella Grant, the teacher who'd seen me before anyone else had bothered. The cycle was unbroken now, but this time, in the right direction. That weekend, I stood on stage at the Savannah Arts Center, accepting a Community Leadership Award. The audience rose in applause. Devin beamed from the front row. There were no empty seats haunting me anymore. "My journey began with invisibility," I said into the mic, "but it ends with impact. I stopped chasing the eyes that wouldn't see me, and built a world where others could be seen." The ovation swelled, warm and alive. Now, holidays mean potlucks with my foundation team, dinners filled with laughter and chosen kin. Naomi's retirement party last month brought every person who ever believed in me under one roof. Our newest initiative, the Emergency Creative Fund, ensures that no talented girl loses her dream to circumstance. Driving home that evening through Savannah's quiet streets, I passed the cafe where I'd last seen my parents. Through the window, I caught a glimpse of them walking together, slower, older, humbled. Our eyes met briefly. I didn't stop. They taught me what love isn't. My life taught me what it is. Tomorrow, Maya begins her next project. I'll be there, camera in hand, passing on the skill, not the pain. Because family isn't who raises you, it's who lifts you. Sarai's story is a reminder that family isn't always defined by blood. Sometimes it's built through courage, healing, and the people who choose to see you when others won't. She walked away from the weight of approval and turned her pain into a legacy that lights the path for others. When you've been unseen, ignored, or underestimated, remember, your success doesn't need validation from anyone who couldn't recognize your worth. Build anyway. Shine anyway. And when you rise, lift someone with you. If this story moved you, don't scroll away. Like, share, and subscribe to support more powerful, Black-centered stories of redemption, resilience, and revenge served with purpose. Drop a comment below. Tell us, what would you do if the people who ignored your worth came asking for help? Stay tuned for the next story on Revenge Tales by Camera, because healing and payback can both be beautiful when done with grace.